featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Andy, the 4th of July has come and gone. I hope your holiday weekend was as great as mine. Part of me wants to just kind of ask you how things went, tell some stories, and just kind of mix it up today. But you know what? It's all business today, man.
Business, Andy.
We are grinding NFL, starting the process. This is a big season.
Honestly, Drew, nightmare week, because there's 2 golf tournaments of which I want to be evaluating matchup bets for both. So I haven't even got to, day one matchup bets for either. I have to do that after the podcast. On a short week, because I did nothing on Monday, man. I did nothing. And truthfully, the weather looked really bad up here, where it was like, oh shit, it's going to rain all day long on the 4th of July. The parade is canceled. The fireworks are canceled. Kids, grab your iPads and shut up. But lo and behold, it rained all morning, cleared out by the afternoon. Everything was a go-go, and it was fine. So 4th of July went, it was unassuming, but it went swimmingly. And back to business. There's a lot of work left to do. We're going to start on team previews next week, starting with I hate to phrase it as the most boring division. I'm going to use the word stable.
No, our warm-up. It's our warm-up.
It's our warm-up. It's like a practice girlfriend.
Practice. Yeah.
Right. Some of these teams, like the mistake on the lake, which might be, honestly, they might call that a person instead of a city now. But that
Which team mistake by the lake?
That's what they call Cleveland. There's several.
There's several.
If you want to count one, there's
Detroit,
one by Lake,
Chicago,
there's one by Lake Michigan.
We got a whole bunch we could really kind of
There's a lot of things that have to fall. We would be doing it a great disservice if we did a AFC North preview right now. So the ones with less stability.
It hasn't even been confirmed that Deshaun Watson is suspended for a year and that Jimmy G is going to be the quarterback of the Browns. We don't even know that yet.
Yeah, we'd like that in stone before we get to that one.
Yeah, right.
But we will be starting with that. It's not boring, it's stable. So we're going to get some easy ones, and we are going to get the warm-ups out of the way and get right into the NFL. And if anything comes up in between there, we'll cover it too. But from now on, man, this is a straight no fun league.
All business, baby.
You started digging through the schedule. I've started processing a few, working on my preview thoughts, working on my power numbers. Haven't got as far as I'd like to, but my wife and my daughter, who are the most talkative people in the household, are leaving for the weekend to go to a baby shower all the way in South Dakota. So I know if this was 21-year-old Andy, which I wasn't married at that point, it'd be like, I'm going to the bar all weekend. We're going to go to the lake. I'm going to gamble my ass off down at a casino. And 38-year-old Andy's like, oh man, I'm going to get my power numbers so freaking tight. Oh God, I'm going to have so many notes jotted down in my documents I use for this. I'm going to be so organized for NFL. Like, I'm just excited to just grind NFL all weekend.
Yeah. I'm like you in that I'm still broadly distracted, but I'm enjoying kind of getting going.
How can I work when we have Wimbledon on all morning?
Wimbledon is absolutely, good luck getting anything else done.
Ask me how much I bet on Ons Jabeur when you told me to.
How much did you bet on Ons?
Not enough, Drew. Not enough.
So, do you have fun live trading that Taylor Fritz match today? Rafa Nadal, Taylor Fritz.
Yeah,
I saw plus 500 both ways a couple of times.
I had 700 on Fritz. I just put a little bit. I just want to show someone this ticket when he breaks back. So I put $25 on Fritz that lost, but the big live one on Nadal came through. So not to steal a line from Doc Better because we love him to death. But I mean, I feel like this is public domain at this point. But we are just boom valuing these tennis when this many favorites go down a set, or in men's tennis two sets,
pretty crazy.
and then they win. It makes you feel so smart, even though you're not doing anything. You're not sitting there like live calculating the odds and really, doing anything special. It's just like, well, Nadal's faked an injury or two before. I think he's still got that dog in him. And I mean, the Jabeur one I didn't get on. I should have. But there's been a couple of boom values where, you get some favorites down live and just hit it for a little. And Cam Norrie to win his quarter. After the madness that was, I grabbed a little of that at 4 and 5 to 1.
Nice work.
Sweated the shit out of that final.
Yeah, that barely got there. You could have gotten a better price. Yeah, you could have gotten a better live price Cam Norrie in match than you got for that to win the quarter.
Yeah. It's not like I sweated any match before that, but yeah, and I did bet that. I remember I put that in the tennis chat. I'm like, I'm betting the over just for when GoFan makes this difficult on me, and he made it difficult. So
yeah, that was fun. No, Wimbledon's been fun. Week 1, I lost my ass. Week 2, I've been absolutely clawing back. I don't think I've actually had a loser so far this week, although knocking on wood now on Jabeur. Please have the strength come through to the finals, babe. This has been as good a break for her as I ever could have dreamed. Obviously, coming into the tournament without the Russians and the Belarusians was a huge equity in her favor. Obviously, Iga Swiatek not doing any warm-ups was huge equity in her favor. And then all of the chaos of all of this, all the players with a realistic chance being on the top half of the draw, and they all got eliminated on the same day. That Saturday was just whoosh, just wiped the top of the draw. It was just beautiful. And now we're just sweating a little bit of Simona Halep, who, of course, fond memories of back Simona Halep on title runs.
She looks good.
Yeah, you know what though?
I mean, Anisimova is not on Jabeur, but she made her look bad at times.
Yeah, you know what people are asking though? Did she peak too early?
You get 2 days off.
She'll peak too early. She doesn't get 2 days off. She has to go back to back.
Yeah, you're true. I wish I didn't. I shouldn't say I wish I didn't have tickets on this because I'm glad I do. But who was it? Was it Halep Penko? Was that a final? Or I'm trying to think.
Penko was a final of the French Open in 2017 that went in favor of Penko, I think.
Penko, yeah. There's been some really good Halep finals. Not all slams,
for sure.
But I will if it is just
Serena Williams impressively.
Oh yes, that's a good one. If it's just Ons, and Halep, like good popcorn match, it's gonna be a great one.
Seriously.
And then congrats to Novak on his slam victory.
So he's definitely going to the finals. Scam Norrie is will be lucky to win 6 games.
Certainly not.
You give Nick any shot against Djokovic. Nick has kind of been the one guy that has had just enough on serve to really frustrate the best defender in the world.
Yeah,
you don't give him anything.
I give him. I don't say it's a 0%. Nothing's ever 0, but he's going to be very frustrated by the amount of balls that are going to be coming back at him that haven't been during this tournament. Like he just God level defense, God level coverage. And even when he has looked bad, he still looks good. Like Joker hasn't even really, you talk about not peaking too early. I mean, he's had to like throw it down into second gear a couple times, but guy has 3 or 4 more gears. I think it'll be a very good match if Nick stays focused.
Okay,
honestly, Nadal is gonna win. Nadal is faking an injury.
No,
he's gonna come out looking. He's gonna come out. We've been down this goddamn road group. We've said this. We're like, oh my god, like I can't believe he didn't retire in what was it, Madrid?
Sure.
Like
he got his ass kicked. Ultimately,
how did he? Yeah, I know, but like, how did? I'm saying, yeah, he's not gonna be Joker, but. Like he's gonna come out looking just fine. He rope and doped us all, and it's going 5. If that total keeps coming down, I'll bet an over 39. That's silly.
Yeah, okay, that's not crazy. I don't think that's crazy, especially because Nick is has this mentality of I'll drop sets, no problem. Djokovic, for what it's worth, don't hold me to this because I have not fact checked it, but I believe Nick Kyrgios is the only active player, who Djokovic has not ever taken a set from. Have at least 2 head-to-heads. He is 0-2 lifetime against Kyrgios, and he has lost 2-0 in both of their head-to-heads. Weird little wrinkle there. I don't know why Kyrgios plays him so tough, but I don't know. I don't give Kyrgios that much hope, but I definitely think that'll be a funner final than Nadal Djokovic would be. But that's my opinion. I know there's a lot of Raw fans out there that are loving this inspirational run he's putting together, but I find him exceedingly gross in a lot of ways, but that's just my personal opinion. Let's talk a little NFL. We're here 10 minutes in. No more time for Tour de France. No more time for Scottish Open. You can find us on our other platforms, handicapping other
2-0 in cycling bets. So.
Oh, good job. Well, good job.
You know what the worst part about betting is?
How's your women's Euro going so far?
0-1.
Oh shoot! Sorry,
I needed England to score in the second half, just a single goal.
They had a lot of.
I went back and forth between score in both halves
and halftime, full time.
Win both halves would have been very greedy. Halftime, full time was like -190.
Oh,
win to 0 was cheap. But I went a little spendier or I went a little greedy and didn't get it. But there's like 40 matches left. We're going to be just fine. I bet a future on a girl who tore her ACL the other day.
You bet Spain or you bet her to win the golden ball?
I bet her to win golden boot.
She's not playing.
No, she's not.
The Spanish gal?
Not getting that money back.
No.
But my outright was England plus 450. Like it's coming home.
Okay.
Dutch are in a bad place.
England ever won a major anything ever? World Cup,
the women,
gold medal,
the
Euro?
women have not.
They have.
No, this would be something new.
Be their maiden title. Yeah.
The new coaching. They stole the Dutch coach. Like they stole the good coach. Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't know this thing. This is why we need to do a deep dive before these tournaments.
And I stayed up too late and had too many gummies last night, and that's when I'm like, part of why I bet some Swedish futures was, that. The Spain thing, and then I bet the Spain boot thing anyway because I like had her in my head. So hopefully we get some stuff back there. But
well, yes, that threw some serious cold water on Spain, and that helps Germany. I suppose
it does a little, but obviously still got to make it through the knockouts.
All right. So let's talk a little NFL.
It's coming.
What I don't know. Did you have any kind of final autopsy thoughts on how the 2021 season went for you overall, and what sort of the state of the betting market is in the NFL nowadays?
We did a bad job a couple times with weather,
and really then the whole season, yeah.
And then I think once we got bit, we overreacted to it.
Okay.
Or we got gun shy, like, oh, what if there's weather? So I think we need to be cognizant of the weather and possibilities of it. Maybe look at that more from the 10,000 foot view. Maybe we could run some numbers on that and see, like, traditionally in this part of the country in October that we have, the odds of getting high winds in Cleveland in October or higher, and, use that for some sort of, like if we have bad weather, it's an outlier and I'm fine with it.
That's a good call.
Looking more climate than like weather, because it's really hard to predict a week out. If you want to be hitting Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, happy days openers, it's really tricky. Like every week we do this with golf, and I look and it's like, fuck, I'm looking only 2 or 3 days out. And every week it's like, the DFS touts, it's the AM PM wave this week. And then sure enough, 2 days later, they completely say the opposite because the wind switched or the rain. I mean, how many times have you had that where it's like, oh, it might rain tonight, and then it ends up raining at like 5 a.m. the next day? It just gets slowed down, pushed back. That sort of thing happens with a golf tournament. It switches your wave advantage. That thing happens with a football game where the wind doesn't get there in time, or it gets there early, and all of a sudden the total drops 4 points on the last hour and a half of betting. So we need to work on that. And then I think I did a better job of looking at some situational stuff, game script things. I
Okay.
still want to improve more on that. I think that definitely helps with totals.
Okay.
Where we can start to look at like team tendencies, and it's going to be tough. And that's something I wrote down in my list of things I need to do is there's things we can do preseason here, which is going to be lots of things. There's so much left to do to get ready, but there's stuff that you can't really do until the season. Even the preseason isn't going to be a good indicator of this, but we have a handful of new coaches. We have new coordinators. And with that, we're going to be, we're going to have to be finding out some of their tendencies. Like we know what Pete Carroll's going to do with a lead. We know what McVay's going to do almost all the time. Like he's a very open book about, what that team does. Just kind of, there are teams that have higher rates of tendency and predictability, I guess, as far as what they do in certain game states, but a bunch of new coaches, a bunch of new coordinators. You got new offenses, schemes. You got new quarterbacks, new places. It's going to be, and Patrick says, as if the Seahawks will have a lead this year. Yeah.
We'll get to the Seahawks in just a bit. The NFL did them some very, very, very solid. They gave them some very solid chances in a schedule.
So I won't spoil what Drew's going to tell you, but do you think they had a meeting and they just said like, hey, they go through everybody and then they get to Seattle and be like, are they going to start Drew Lock? Like, should we? And it was like, you either go one way or the other. You either contract the team, or you say, let's take it easy on them because they're obviously going through some stuff right now. Like
they're going through some stuff.
They're going through some issues.
They're going through some stuff. Yeah. I mean, presumably, we're making jokes. Geno Smith might win the starting job. Like
Geno Smith should win the starting job. He is much better than Drew Lock. And then if you guys in the chat throw your stuff in, I think that's some good stuff. If you have some things you're looking to, maybe not even improve on, just stuff you didn't do that you wanted to do. We can start to talk some of this stuff. But decaying out priors, that is almost more art than science.
For sure. And it's team dependent too. You can't just use a blank.
I was just going to ask you, I was going to say, there's not some all-encompassing thing where saying we should start washing out these priors because, and a good example of it last year was the Dallas Cowboys. Because again, how much did you want to rely on a prior that was the entire team was injured the year, 2 years ago? Like, do we want to be setting up that prior? We almost need to start, at the ground floor using like what could have been in 2020 as a prior and then quickly adjusting off that. So
sure. Player level anything. Yeah. Player level anything is huge. And, but I definitely still a very player level proponent. I need to be more I think it's, and again, like you said, it's art, but like a player like Micah Parsons, who all preseason I was like, this is not going well. They're using him in coverage. He can't cover. Like, this is bad. And then all of a sudden, by halftime of game one, Quinn adjusts to make him primary pass rusher, and the rest is history. He's a defensive player of the year candidate, right? And like, that was way slow, kind of making that adjustment. And if you have a game changer, game player, blue chip player like that can change the complexity of your defense, then you need to be a little bit more aggressive adjusting the priors. Same with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. As soon as that was pretty clear that was a viable third option, and they had 3 viable passing options on the field for every single passing down, then all of a sudden that offense's prior that you came into the season with is dead wrong, and you need to aggressively update that. So, I don't know that we're going to have as much rookie impact this year as those 2 examples, Parsons and Chase, but
it's hard to guess. There's 5 or 6 wide receivers that I think could just, they either go into the shadows. We don't hear much about them. They get 40 targets, or there could be some, that don't win rookie of the year, but they almost need a name for this. Like, guys that anybody who's betting knows, like, this guy cannot win rookie of the year. He won't. It doesn't matter if he keeps this up and does what he's doing. It's not a thing, but every pregame show starts talking about it. or every like talking heads like this guy might be rookie of the year. It's like, no, he's a wide receiver, and there's like 2 quarterbacks that are playing okay. Like it's just, and last year obviously what we saw with none of the quarterbacks really played okay was a bit of an outlier season, but it just there's always going to be 1 or 2 wide receivers that make some sort of impact. There's going to be a couple of running backs that have come into the league as rookies now that are going to get meaningful-ish touches. And, it's fun to keep an eye on that, but for me, it's definitely not the rookie of the year stuff that everybody wants to talk about. It is going to have to be adjustments to how you feel about this. I do less player level stuff than you. I try to make it a little less granular and do player groupings.
Yeah.
But then I guess I do player level then, just different than you. Like I do, positional grouping.
You can break it up however you want. If you're
I do positional grouping stuff. But at the same time,
positional group is the same thing. Yeah.
But the positional group, their grade is going to change if a player is in or out.
Sure.
So it is player level, but in a different kind of way.
Yeah. A couple other things, just macro. I'm at risk of sounding like an absolute turd saying this because of how my NFL regular season went last year, wins and losses. But I felt like getting the best of the number was like historically not great last year. In general, it felt like a lot of the professional moves that came later in the week that were aggressive, like they didn't hit at the same rate as we usually see, and I have no idea why that is. But there was definitely
on average, how many of those a week do you think you saw?
3 or
2
4.
or 3?
3 or 4. Yeah.
Okay, 3 or 4. So let's call that 70, 75 moves. It's still not a big sample. But I mean, you're right. I'd agree with you. There were some weird moves. There was a group that loved
somebody was
Philadelphia.
betting the Washington football team every week early in the season, and they just couldn't get it right. They stopped doing it, and then they ripped off like 4 against the spread. There was a lot of stuff like that, and we weren't. I mean, I was not the only person losing last year. There was a lot of, I think, professional blood in the water in the NFL for whatever reason. There was crazy stuff too, like the monsoon game in San Francisco. What was that? What was that one? The atmospheric.
This bomb cyclone.
Thank you. Bomb cyclone hits a dome team with Carson Wentz on the field in San Francisco, and they still hit that total. It went over because of some fluky bullshit. That one will sting for years in terms of how much that hurt my bankroll. There was some other crazy fluky outcomes. I definitely did not do a great job of
I did
kind of picking my spots.
Trying to get my shit together here. Do you remember there was a fluky outcome near the end of the playoffs that got you?
Was it the overtime coin toss in Buffalo, Kansas City?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one hurt.
That one got you. That was a classic episode of Drew just yelling at Andy. I'm just sitting here taking it.
I did a bad job though of kind of keying in and identifying games that I wanted to try to grind an edge on that were higher variance, because I thought that the variance would work in my favor, and I ended up on the wrong end of a lot of that, which was pretty stupid, and I don't know why I went for the higher variance spots. So I'm going to kind of try to tune back on that. Like if I don't bet a Chargers game this season, that's fine. That's fine. Let them flip their coins as many times and see how it breaks. I like what they're doing. I'll cheer for them, but I don't need to be betting on that.
I felt like I just tried to get too smart for my own good, where there was a bunch of that you would sit there and say that's too obvious. Like that's probably built in. Like I left a lot of winners off the card. And then when I did talk myself into one where it's just like, oh my God, I have to bet, like, this is way off from my numbers. I'm going to double check everything. It looks great. And then I'd bet that and it would win by $1 million. And then the stuff that I really, really spent time on trying to like find an edge.
Yeah.
And I thought I had some game that's like the game state. If it sets up this way, it's super high variance, long tail to the over. I bet it, and it would never get near where I thought it would, where we thought that game had the most chance of landing. And so it did feel like the obvious ones for me just hit. So maybe I need to trust my eyes a little more because we've been doing it for a little while.
A couple other macro thoughts. Long teasers remain the best bet in the NFL. They
had a year.
The totals, I'm probably going to lay off totals in general this year relative to years past. I would usually play like 3 or 4 a week among 7 to 9 plays ish. And I got to tell you, like, you have to be so much more aggressive timing wise and getting down on totals now that I just don't know if it's worth it.
I have a similar thought. I won't be betting totals early.
Right. Like that's basically. I mean, and I'm saying that
Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday night we will be grabbing numbers, and I'm not going to say I'm never going to bet a total on Sunday night.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of totals I am going to wait. Not only to go back to the weather point, the getting closer to that Wednesday injury report and knowing the weather a little bit closer. Like I think. If I like a side in a total, and I'm worried about 1 point, I think it's a better trade-off to know what the weather's going to be like and the full player availability for that, just to bet it on Wednesday. Plus, at that point, I'll be able to see it's limit up at that point. Not that I'm betting 10 grand a game, but it's nice to see that the people who are waiting for limit up, what the market starts tickling, which way or the other. It'll be a long time before I hit my head on the ceiling of NFL limits. Like, I can piss and moan about NBA draft and oh my god, the hot dog contest.
I'm okay.
Hot dog contest was so hard to get down on this year.
I didn't even try. I congratulate anyone that got bets down on the hot dog eating contest, but I couldn't even.
The hot dog syndicate. I talked to CK. He told me what they were able to get down early.
Really?
Before the best part, we have to go back for
not legally though, right? Like, I mean, whatever, illegally, but not like at the legal shops, right?
No, it wasn't legal or offshore.
Yeah.
I do have to tell you that though, it was one of those where I felt smart, and then I talked to him. And did you hear the hot dog story?
Yeah. But go ahead, please, by all means.
Well, so I'm grinding tape. And I find that video of them eating like this hot chip challenge or whatever. And it says on the YouTube, Nick Wary and Miki Pseudo. And it says, we'll take some Q&A at the end. So I flipped to Q&A just to see what it was. And she starts talking about how bad her hand is injured. And she might not be able to use it during the 4th of July. She said, I can't see the specialist till the 7th. So I just go bet the under on her everywhere I could bet it, which in that case was like 5 shops. It was very difficult. Like I have 14 books. I could only get it at 5. I bet the under, and then I'm like, oh my God, I need to ask like CK about this. He's like, yeah, we bet it a 50.5, 49.5, 48.5. And I even said, I said, because I have full respect for the hot. Oh, and that again, I felt smart for finding that information and betting, and obviously, but some people would have felt dumb that somebody else had it well before them. But in that case, I'm like, I feel good. The hot dog syndicate is doing the same thing I did just a little earlier on better numbers. So it's like, all right, I'm on the right side. The sharps are with me. And I had brown bag bets that day, and I stopped. I'm like, hey, I'm going to give this out on the show now because I need content. There's no fucking sports. I'm like, do you want me not to? Are you like, have you guys got down enough? He's like, yeah, we're filled at this point. So they were able to get a decent amount on the pseudo unders, and she only ate 40 dogs. They had 50.5. Way to clear the number, boys.
Well,
so I will be not betting NFL early totals, but I will be trying to bet hot dog stuff earlier next year.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay letting the low hanging fruit, the low hanging CLV fruit go. It is what it is. I didn't get any size bets the size down last year on any of that stuff anyway. And I regretted a bunch that we bet after we collected more information on Monday and Tuesday. I think a little bit more patience is probably warranted from me.
Can we spin back the Wong teasers?
Sure.
I know a lot of the stats that you guys, if you read an article about Wong teasers, it's going to give you, year over year performance, and it's going to use the closing number at a book, probably Pinnacle or Bookmaker or wherever they want to use it from. Mm-hmm. It'll tell you what the closing number price was, but do you think you should be betting Wong teasers midweek if they're in that range? Now let's say you really don't know where the market's going to go. It's at 6.5, or it's at 7.5, maybe 8 at some shops. I think you could probably use, if you have a bunch of Square books or just public facing books or any legal books, honestly, that aren't Circa. And then you look at like a Circa, a Bookmaker, a Pinnacle, and you say, hey, let's say Bovada or DraftKings has -8 for the Chargers, but Bookmaker has -7, -7.5, -15. Like, I think you can make some decent leaps there and say the chances of it moving that way are greater than it moving up to 8.5. And you can make some decisions. I think that's where I landed, saying like, I'm going to make my best guess and say, if the market is going to move with me, I'll wait. But if I think the market is going to, if I think the market's going to move away from my number and I'm going to get a worse number, maybe I should just fire on this now and just take Wong teasers in the middle of the week. Or if you have, again, Holt says open. If you have a place that lets you open, that's money. But I think I'm like, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to evaluate what's on the menu for Wong teasers and put them into like 3 or 4 categories. Like this. Yeah. This is probably where the closing lumber ends. This is probably moving with me. This is probably moving away from me, and just start hammering them together. And I'm going to take like, let's say you bet if you bet $1,000 a football game, I'm going to bet $100 Wong teasers, and so like 1/10 of a unit, and I'm going to bet every which way and 3 legs too. Like, I'm going to put smaller units on it and spread them out, full round robin kind of shit.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
I'm going to go heavy on those. I don't know if you have thoughts on midweek versus closing.
Yeah, of course. It's a good discussion. But I feel like we've been staring at the screens for long enough that your guess on Wednesday when we're doing the deep dive, your guess as to will this close around this price, in this direction or in this direction, I feel like we're probably guessing
85-90% right.
It's not like the surprises. I feel like there are when we are surprised by a side move, we're talking about it. We're like,
that probably is
what happened
there?
That
probably is the caveat. True.
Is it an injury?
There's a slight caveat to it, is saying like, we can probably look at the screen, look at the movement, look at where the sharp books are at, and make a very highly accurate guess as to which way it moves before it closes.
Yeah.
With saying, if there is something like a quarterback injury that's looming, or several defenders that, like, maybe that is something you leave it alone, because you said like this could go either way by game day. So maybe it's the line might move enough where I want to leave this alone, or I don't give a shit. This is a good enough leg. Even if those defenders are out, I want this in my teasers.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like Wednesday, Thursday. I'm going to be putting in Wong teasers. I'll be firing those out on the timeline, baby.
I like it. I think there are probably a lot of things we can kind of flesh out in terms of teaser philosophy and apply this year. Chargers are probably a good team not to tease, because who knows how often they'll go for 2 and how often, if is 3 as valuable for LA Chargers as it is for every other team in the NFL? Probably not. So there's probably a lot of that we can kind of add to the arsenal, I would guess. But I think I'm going to, in general, focus a little more on sides, back off a totals bit, and see if I can't improve.
Which is funny, because totals should be softer.
I don't have there's so many last year were based on the way that the fucking refs called the game, and you never knew. Like, the consistency just was not there last year, and that's part of the reason I'm ready to just throw my hands up. I'm not saying that there's in any way no impropriety going on here. Just the poor quality of reffing and the inconsistency made it extremely tough in certain to grind an edge in totals. I felt like. All that said, what was the first thing you did with your NFL offseason homework when you really got down to business?
I really just
power numbers.
Yeah, I'm not through with that yet. My first thing I do every year is just, oh man, I have a lot of notes. I used to do it with a paper notebook where I just had a piece of paper for every team, and I had a lot of notes about what I wanted to do with certain teams and thoughts. And then it moved to having a lot of Google Docs and Google spreadsheets. That's kind of still where I'm at. Like, maybe I should work on some sort of database program instead. But I like my notes how I like my notes. And I start getting my notes put together by looking at last year's notes and seeing, where did I end up with this team? What were my thoughts at the end of the year? I said this right away when I started doing that. I said, I feel like at the end of the season, I should write a paragraph for each team when their season ends. So like, at the end of the regular season, I should write a little epitaph for every team and be like, here's, maybe some things I learned about this team. Like, here's where I was right. Here's where I was wrong. Here's some, things I noticed about this team, tendencies, thoughts on that. Just like a lot of it was in my notes, but some sort of a summation of, what I thought the team was, what I thought I learned about them that year, what the market thought, what I gleaned from the market's response to that team throughout the season, and then just have that, because that would have been great to go back and look at. Again, digging through a bunch of notes is fine, but having a nice summary would have been great. And I am going to do that at the end of the year. I might even just tweet those. That'd be a fun one. Like, here's my thoughts on this team. You guys can argue with me all you want, because Twitter's fun for arguments. Arguments are, I'm very anti-confrontational. I'm too nice for that, but arguments on Twitter sometimes pop some good information out. I'm very open-minded about stuff. I'm willing to listen to the other side of stuff. That's why we have Food Snob Frog in the comments sometimes. I joked to them today. I'm like, we finally agreed on something. We'll get to Survivor here in a bit. And then real quick, Swag Lord Ken, are Wong teasers -20 worth it? It's close. Like, I'd have to do the math on that. I think you got to hit. You already have to hit like 72% of regular, regular legs, single legs to make it work. So once you start paying -20, like you need to figure out the single leg price by getting the square root of 1.833 and then going from there, and then converting that single leg into a percentage, and that's what you have to hit for single legs. So whatever the square root of 1.833 is, turned into a decimal odd, turned into a percentage, that's what you have to hit on single legs, and it's 74%, I would guess, at that point. So it does make it tougher. I think if you pick and choose your spots, maybe, but it does cut into the value, and you're going to really want to try to find a book that lets you do 10 cents on it.
Yeah.
So and that is referring to a 6-point teaser. 20 cents is profitable on a 6.5. 30 cents is profitable on a 7-point teaser, which is a little rare. Link says not in one and done. We already got our one and done locked in. I can't release it because it can't. The lawyer might be listening.
Oh, okay. don't
the lawyer's another guy in the one and done.
Oh, okay. My process definitely starts with taking all the look ahead lines and decomposing it to just market ratings for the teams, just to see what the temperature of the market broadly is. Would be probably one of my first things I would do, but you do it, so I don't. Yeah, okay.
It just Drew's numbers are going to be pretty close to that.
I also like to look at the openers for win totals, look at the current numbers for win totals around 4th of July, see who's been taking steam, see where, Is it consensus, just Pythag wins driving that, or is it free agency driving that? If a win total has been bet one win in any direction, what can we explain why that is? Just try to kind of wrap my head around what people are seeing with different teams and get a sense of sort of the market sentiment of this is a buy team, this is a sell team. That's one of my favorite things early on. And then going through the schedule in great detail and really kind of quantifying what rest advantage is over the balance of a season, how concentrated rest advantage or disadvantage is over stretches of the season, whether those stretches correspond to meaningful, like this team's got to win there if they're going to do blank. And oh, by the way, they just happen to have disadvantages in 4 weeks in a row. Like that kind of stuff is useful to me in turn, kind of understanding sort of what the arc of a team's season may look like.
Let's get into that because you and I talked about it off the air, and I think what you did was really interesting, taking some of the things that have been successful in NBA in the past, kind of, retrofitting it to work in the NFL, which is, the schedule is a lot different and much fewer games, and rest means a different thing in the NFL. But I do want to say, and we can let's touch on Seattle, and if you want to touch on a few other ones, but let's not go crazy with the individual examples. Let's save those for the team preview stuff.
Okay.
But I mean, I think we have to touch on a few to give examples to talk about it. But don't give them all away. We got to talk about them during the. One of my favorite things we added to the team previews last year was like talking about their individual schedule. Dan did a good job of pasting some graphics together for us on that. So, but yeah, you took rest advantage, and a lot of it was just not. Did they have a bye? Did they play Monday and then Thursday or this? But also where they're going, where they've been, and how long ago did they take heading from Seattle to New York is one thing. If it happened 8 weeks ago, it's probably moot.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it happened 2 weeks ago, it still has some residual effect on you and your rest.
Yeah. And basically what I see is that travel at this point is correlated to distance of travel. Basically, how arduous is this trip in terms of time spent on an airplane? And then how the time decay is pretty aggressive. So the week of matters. Last week matters a little less. 3 weeks ago matters a little less. 4 weeks ago really doesn't matter at all. That's kind of what I'm seeing. And so I think I'm putting a pretty aggressive, kind of normalizing everything to distance traveled over a 3 week sample and decaying it so that you're giving highest weight to the current week is important. So basically went and carried that out for every game on the schedule and, came up with effectively an in-game score for, how fatigued your team would be. And then conversely, how rested the opposing team is from a travel standpoint, and then what the differential is. Yeah, what the differential is. And it's interesting because all teams are not created equal, surely. Some teams have more than half their schedule where they're at a disadvantage. Other teams have kind of been given, I guess, in the case of a team like Seattle, they've been given a chance based on the teams that were handicapped over the balance of their schedule and exactly how good those teams are. So I guess, as an example, Seattle in particular.
Just real quick, and I don't think there's a way to quantify this, but maybe this could be a bit of a qualitative or a subjective opinion that you do on top of this. If you are looking at a situation and say, hey, the team X has a big rest advantage, team Y has a big disadvantage, but the team with the rest advantage has a coach who's known to be a knob dick about this sort of thing, or it's just an organization that's not good. And then we have, a smart organization who has shown in the past. And I was curious too, if you showed that at all doing some of your back testing. It was like certain teams are not affected by this as much, because I think and we've seen this, especially it's super exacerbated by trips to London. We've seen there's a few teams like, oh my God, it's like haven't been watching these games happen for the last decade, and this is when they're flying out. Like, do they not care? Are they tanking? So it's not as prevalent, I suppose, in just a cross country flight, but there are teams who are better at traveling. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's
100%.
quantifiable or if that's just a subjective thing you have to put on later.
I think that's a subjective thing.
Okay.
Yeah, giving this full weight in terms of modifying a number versus just kind of knowing that this is a difficult spot are two different things. And some organizations I would give full penalties, and others I would just say, hey, just know what's going on here. International travel is a great example. Seattle has the most difficult trip all season. They have to go to Munich to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I remember when I saw that. I said, why?
So what's crazy is in terms of distance flying, they're almost identical. So it's not a longer trip, but it's 3 additional time zones.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you remember great circle routes, guys? Like, I feel like there's some great circle route involved in this whole equation, which blew my mind as a child. But once we looked that up, it's like, oh my God, it's not horrid. It's still not great going from the West Coast to Germany, but
it's a 6,000-mile flight. It's long. It's basically flying.
If you had to fly
across
6,000 miles with Pete Carroll chewing that gum.
Oh God, yeah.
You're not going to be happy.
No, not at all. But Tampa also has to make that same flight. The difference is Tampa loses in 3 less time zones. And so the body clock advantage is theirs if they go at the same time. Now, if Seattle goes a little earlier to help their guys kind of adjust to that, then that changes things. So kind of knowing that is a potential landmine spot for Seattle is important. But then following the news that week. Yeah. I mean, they got to go on Wednesday. They got to go on Wednesday.
If we find out they didn't take the overnight where they can sleep on the plane,
sure.
Then that's a demerit for sure. That's a half point.
I need them to kind of have multiple days of regrouping because they're playing at what amounts to like 6:30 in the morning their time. After
I was going to say
6,000 miles.
As a child, my grandparents lived there. We'd go to Germany almost every year. And I mean, granted, we stay there longer than what a football team would, but even just when you get there, it takes 3 or 4 days from the central time zone to get your shit in the get and figure out what time you should eat and trying to get to bed at the right time. They're an additional 2 hours. So right now I was going to say Vinny, when we had Vinny on the other day, I think he was 7 hours ahead of me.
Yeah.
So I think it's 9 from the coast.
Yeah.
That's it's 3/4 of the way to being the opposite, complete opposite time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a big fucker do.
Yep. So that was tough.
The analysts will say
they don't have much of a disadvantage travel-wise to Tampa again because the distance is the same. But Seattle is coming off of a game at Arizona the week before they have to go at Munich. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay does not have that same issue. The benefits for Seattle from traveling are they have 4 of the bigger advantages that exist in any game across the entire calendar, travel-wise, and those are hosting Atlanta week 3, hosting the Giants week 8, hosting Carolina week 14, and hosting the Jets week 17.
So all those East Coast teams they don't have to go to.
All those East Coast teams that come to them that suck. So basically,
just Germany.
If there's 4 wins on the Seahawks, 3 of them are coming from those games. I think it's pretty realistic, and I don't think it's an accident that that they handicapped Atlanta, Giants, Jets, and Carolina. Just to make those games even to give Seattle a fighting chance. But yeah, I think Seattle's ceiling's probably 4 wins, if we're being honest. The rest of their schedule is absolutely brutal. The rest from just a day's rest.
They may not win a road game.
Yeah. So basically, because of those 4 advantage spots, Seattle actually has the highest net positive in terms of travel fatigue. across the league. Cleveland is up there as a positive. Baltimore is up there as a positive. Chicago and Pittsburgh are positives. Pittsburgh, Chicago, Baltimore, Cleveland, like, because they're so centrally located and in general their travel is kind of limited, is making a big difference for those teams in terms of travel demand.
It's a good point from the comments. Like, if you wanted to completely pivot to really, really like hard car salesman touting, like the real scummy side, Drew Lock. It's right there for you.
Right there.
Drew's locks, and it doubles as like a hair joke.
Yeah,
it's right there for you.
I like it. Yeah,
I don't know if you want to be associated with Drew Lock though.
Well, yeah, I don't think I'll pivot in that direction. You could pull it off too, though. By the way, 2 Andrews here on this.
I am. Yes, I am an Andrew. I haven't gone by Drew in a while.
The teams that have the biggest disadvantage from a travel fatigue standpoint, the worst is New England. However, again, this is a work in progress. And the reason that New England is so bad kind of boils down to 2 games in particular, and they are week 14 and week 15.
When is their bye? I don't have it in front of me.
The Patriots bye is week 10.
So middle bye.
Then they come out of their bye at week 11, and they play the Jets, who are also that same wrinkle that we always see with schedules.
They always play a team off the bye.
Playing another team off the bye. After that, though, they go 4 straight games of prime time. At Mini on Thanksgiving versus Buffalo on Thursday, and then they have at Arizona, at Las Vegas. So those at Arizona, at Las Vegas trips are wild. Back to back across the country. Arizona and Las Vegas are in extended home stands leading up to those games, so they're especially rested. My gut is that the Patriots have some plan to stay in Arizona and train for the week before going to Vegas. I don't think Belichick's taking his guys to the Strip, putting them on the Strip for a week, but if he does, that's worth paying attention to, because that is not.
Hey guys, we're staying in Reno.
What's
where did old people? Laughlin.
Laughlin, yeah, there you go. But yeah, the Arizona Vegas back-to-back for the Patriots is wild. I'm sure that was requested and that they're going to stay out there. But even still, if they do make the trip across the country twice, then that travel fatigue is non-trivial, and that's as bad as any team gets it all season. Miami also just a brutal schedule from a travel standpoint. Their worst stretch is 3 games in a row on the road. Week 13, 14, 15. Miami goes at San Francisco, at the Chargers, at Buffalo. Not great in the weary months of December to be going 3 in a row, 2 of them on the West Coast. Now, they may also have a plan to stay out west after they play San Francisco. What's the coach of the Miami Dolphins now? Mike McDaniel. McDaniel might have some connections in San Francisco that he's intending to keep his team out there and stay on West Coast time and avoid the trip to and from Miami to San Francisco, Miami to LA. But those back-to-back trips are rough.
That. You could go practice at like Santa Clara, or pick your FCS school out there. I mean, there's a decent. I was going to say there's a Pac-12 school up there, but I don't know if the Pac-12 will be around by the time we get to that game. Might be a mountain, or it might be an ACC team at that point. We'll see what happens. But yeah, go do the thing where you go find somewhere chill to stay, practice for the week out there. I mean, it's honestly, like, I don't know, because I've never played in the NFL that you guys know of. My career didn't make it that far. But I try to think back of like practices, even in high school, like when you got to do something different. Like it got the morale up, even if it's just, all right, we don't have all our fancy equipment out here. We're just going to run a bunch of scrimmage plays. We're going to work on this and just like mix it up because we're having practice somewhere else than our practice facility. That when you walk into that practice facility, it feels like you're going to work. I'm guessing like that's your job. That's going to the office, like getting out there on the road and stuff. I don't know what the record, and we don't have a big enough sample of like teams that stayed in Youngstown over a 2-week stretch to go to the East Coast, or the various places they've stayed in West Virginia and whatnot. But I feel like it's probably not a disadvantage.
No,
saying,
I think
"Oh,
no.
I think it's
a requested
well,
road trip can be an advantage for sure. For sure.
yeah, 'cause you're essentially taking away. There's 8 times a year you're going to have to travel, or 9, depending now which conference you're in, and you essentially take one away and turn it into a fun. I don't know. I just picture like all the guys, they go on that run, and then you give the Gettysburg speech, and then all of a sudden people are getting along, right side, strong side, and then the team wins.
Yeah. Also, I would point out that the handful of anecdotal examples we can point to, the teams, especially the Niners, for whatever reason, just come out that week 2 after a concentrated week of prep, and they just thunderfuck their opponent.
Well, that's the thing too. You don't go home to your family. You don't have to deal with your fucking kids, your wife, your mistress. Like
no distractions.
They don't have
full concentrated week of prep.
Yeah, you hang out with your football player friends for the week, and you're just focused in on one thing rather than dealing with real life. Like it's a full on road trip with the guys. I could see it being, it probably is a plus. It's probably a net plus.
Yeah, I think so too. I want to touch on the Jags real quick as another one. Besides the Patriots and the Dolphins, the Jags also have a rough schedule from a travel standpoint. But
they have an experienced quarterback coach combo.
Not only is the AFC handicapped with one more road game this year than the NFC. I'm sure you remember that, but write it down because there's 17 games.
Do you know how I can remember which year it's on? Because of Atlanta getting fucked last year.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Dan.
Dan. The Jags got it this year though, because not only do they have one less home game from start, they give up one for London.
Yep.
They're the only AFC team that has 7 true
They got
home
falconed.
games. They got falconed. Their home game in London is against the Denver Broncos, who have similar travel distance but more time zones. The Jags elected not to take a bye after playing in London.
At all?
Oh. No, they got a bye later in the season. They come right back and they play Vegas and Jacksonville the next week.
I feel like that didn't work out well for Indy when they did it.
No, I mean it's generally not a great decision from what I can tell you, but it's each team has its own choices.
Really. I don't want to shit on the coaching yet, because I don't really have a leg to stand on, or an argument to say like they made the wrong choices there, because I kind of liked what they ended up with in the end without seeing a product on the field yet to judge it by. I think they might have gone the right direction with coaching eventually. And again, with the quarterback, we saw, what was a high-end product get probably stymied by bad coaching. But I can say, so I don't know. There's a lot of upside with Trevor Lawrence that's there. Might never see anything. He might go full Rosen and just doesn't have it at this level. But he got upside in 2 spots. But boy, howdy, when it comes to travel, Trevor Lawrence is not making those decisions.
No,
I really, really don't think your rookie head coach is making those decisions without any oversight. And the front office fucking sucks.
Well, they're trying to keep one foot in London. They're trying to be London's team. So they're going to give this up every year. The decision not to have the bye, though, is weird.
Yeah, so I feel like they're going to, even though they've done it so many years, like if they goof up the travel there and back, how are we going to see this like Jacksonville resurgence that everyone's stumping for?
I don't know. I can't answer that. The real mystery. Denver elected to, by the way, just close the book on that. Denver elected to take their bye after the Jags game in London.
What about Munich? Both teams are taking their byes there.
Seattle is taking their bye. Tampa Bay is taking their bye after the Munich trip.
I thought so. For that one.
The interesting one about the team that elected not to take their bye and lost a home game is the Green Bay Packers, who are facing the New York Giants week 5 in London.
They want that super early bye.
They come home and play the Jets the next week. So I guess the league did them a solid there in terms of who they gave them. But then 7, 8, 9, road, leading right into a head-to-head with Dallas, Tennessee, which is going to be 2 tough ones at home. The road, Washington, Buffalo, Detroit. That third one against Detroit looms large in terms of Detroit doing anything in the NFC North.
We did talk about that earlier in the year when we first saw stuff. We said, like, it's kind of a sweet spot for Detroit to, if they want to steal one from a team that's still probably much better than them.
Yeah.
What an opportunity.
So here's what happens then. Green Bay goes to London. They come home, play the Jets. They have a rest disadvantage against Washington on the road.
Yep.
With Washington getting 3 extra days. Buffalo coming off of a bye. Detroit neutral, 3rd road game in a row. And then Dallas coming off of a bye week 10. So they're kind of in schedule hell for that stretch in terms of what's going to happen to those guys. So I think the time to buy on Green Bay, if ever this season, is probably after that's over.
After that.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is going to need a shitload of dream catchers and pink crystal rock salt and whatever essential oils to make it through. That's a hell of a stretch.
It's tough. Your Vikings going to London week 4 to play the Saints, who gave up one of their home games. Vikings,
and they really want to get Kirk Cousins on display this year. They got a London game. They got a Thanksgiving game.
Neither the Saints nor the Vikings take their bye after the London games. So we'll get to see what happens there.
What the fuck, Quessy?
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings do.
Who did the Vikings play that next week then?
They host the Bears.
Can live with that.
They give them a W. Basically, the teams that elected not to take buys, they gave them punching bags the following week, which is interesting. New Orleans comes back and they get the Seattle Seahawks after not taking their bye at home.
I wonder if there's something to that where it was difficult. Can you imagine, Drew, being the guy, and I'm sure they have a computer program for this, but then you got to start throwing in requests and mix it. But like trying to design an NFL schedule, I think sometimes there's probably a stopping point where they say like, "Hey,
tough shit.
If you don't take your bye after the London game, we'll give you a bottom 5 team. We'll give you one of your easiest spots, and we'll look the other way next time you take out a sex boat on a lake." Maybe there's. I doubt that second part, but the fact that they did give them cupcakes a couple of these spots, and who knows, the Bears, with all the offensive line and wide receivers they added, maybe they turn it around. But that's the Jets one and the Bears one that it feels like, and Seahawks, like it feels like they gave some people some soft landings, maybe in exchange for help us out with the schedule here. I don't know. I need a conspiracy theory to this.
No. I mean the bias stuff, the requests that ultimately go on behind the scenes that we never see, I'm sure are pretty interesting.
Well, and because if you go the other way, where say Minnesota said we don't want to take a bye after this, if that was Minnesota's request and the league had to like shoehorn that into a schedule, that feels like an annoyance to the league. Where why would the league reward you then? No, fuck you. You hit the Bills off a bye then. Like, that's what's happening. So it does feel like some quid pro quo there, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for them to give them a gift like that. All these teams seems a little too coincidental for me. So, yeah, curious to know what goes on behind closed doors and some of these scheduling meetings. What a nightmare that would be to create all these schedules. So gross. Then you got to deal with Bieber concerts and stuff. Fucking New York teams share a stadium. Like, that has to be part of your algorithm. Like, I would build this all out by hand and get to the end and be like, you have the Jets and the Giants in the same stadium like 6 weeks in a row. Like, they can't both play there. That's a noon and a 3:00 game. We're fine.
Yeah.
That'll be my only. That won't be my last conspiracy theory.
Those are the weird standouts from a schedule standpoint. You already probably know this, but the Buffalo Bills get the biggest rest advantage on the season, which is pretty cumulative rest advantage on the season, which is pretty wild. The Detroit Lions also have a huge rest advantage over the balance of the season, which is cool for them. Lions also have a fatigue advantage from a travel standpoint. and just in general, some good situational spots. So, yeah, Lions, the NFL is on board with Restore the Roar, I would say. Any other schedule wrinkles you want to dive into before we get to team level later this cycle?
No, I think you did a really good job of explaining what you did with building out some fatigue factor stuff. It's going to be interesting once we actually get to every team and start talking about here's some high spots, low spots. The most interesting thing to me, and again, this is the stuff I add into my notes or I try to remember. It's so hard for me to actually take notes while we're doing these. Once in a while, I'll listen back to chunks of these, just be like, what did I? Not even just like, what did Drew say? It's like, what did I say? Because sometimes at the end, it's honestly, I go into like a fugue state while I'm doing these, and for some reason, it's like these are like dreams. Like you wake up in the morning and like 10 minutes later, you can't remember what your dream was. So I do have to go back and look, but that's a big chunk of kind of future stuff for both of us. Is we set out these spots, and there's usually like, I don't know, 6 to 10 spots where it's like, this is maybe a buy spot on this team if they underperform through this stretch and another team in their division is playing well, or, they're sitting in the middle of the pack in their conference at that point. And I'd say, you know what, 70% of those don't come to fruition. Where it's like, well, we didn't meet all the criteria. The price wasn't good enough. And it was a good thing to have written down, but we're not pulling the trigger because we try to bet things that are, slightly plus EV in the long run, and it didn't happen. But there are always 2 or 3 where it's like, all right, it's time. We're taking the Colts with the fucking AFC now, guys.
Oh, for sure. No, and I definitely am. I'm definitely gonna take market entry still. I think in the futures space is the king, and it's not close. I think I'm going to do a little more quantitative evaluation of schedule balance, right? Like easy first half, hard second half. I did a ton of that for the NBA, and that was really, 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 really helpful. NBA, obviously, with 82 games is a very different beast, but you kind of did a little bit of analysis, and you're like, holy crap, the Lakers' schedule is so easy to start and so hard to finish. If they don't start well, they're in deep trouble. And you look up and they're 11-11 through 22 games, and it's like, okay, season's over.
Well, and the other thing too, and way different in the NBA, but if a team has a very tough end of the season, but they're projected to be a top 3 team in the conference, be like, those games, they're probably just going to lose like 5 out of 6 of those games because they're just setting up for the playoffs at that point, because seeding doesn't matter to anybody anymore, apparently. There are spots where it's like, this team will be coasting through February and March anyway. Like, how do I feel about that? Or this team is a lottery team and they have a tough second half. Why would they be putting out good lineups and good rotations at that point?
Yeah.
That's not going to be as much of a thing in the NFL, but I think still there are teams where it's like, hey, we're the Atlanta Falcons, and we're 1-11 here. We're not gonna go trotting this out. Or you can make maybe there'd be reaches. It'd be more theories, and again, if this comes to fruition, maybe we can take advantage of it. But a team like that's a spot where maybe you see a rookie quarterback enter the market. Or enter the games a little earlier in cases like Atlanta. What's going to happen there. So
yeah, I mean, Ritter's candidate to start week 2 because of Mariota's injury history. The real question that I'm struggling with right now is what in the world to do with Cincinnati. Cincinnati is the bugaboo in the AFC for me.
They're going to be good, but they'll take a step back. Like the AFC North is going to be buck wild. Like it should be our last one we do, no matter what, because it's going to be.
I think we did plan on that.
I think we made it last because we have to decide what we're doing with Cincinnati. We have to decide what kind of a bounce back we're getting from Baltimore. The Cleveland quarterback situation / massage thing has to sort itself out, and Pittsburgh, like, straight up has a good team with no quarterbacks. Like Mitch Trubisky, probably not he played well 1 year, but him and a rookie, like, is that what we're doing? Like, are you just throwing away this year? Because you still have decent wide receivers. You have a good defense. You don't have the worst offensive line. Like, they're in a weird limbo spot where it's like, do you really want to be 8-9? Is that what because that's what you're putting out there right now. That's the vibes you're putting out. Like, yeah, we're just going to go 500, guys. Like, this is kind of what we settled on because we don't know what to do at quarterback.
Well, I think Tomlin wants to go 9-8.
Yeah, he does. He does want to keep that winning streak alive.
No,
and
but
just
Cincinnati,
anybody who read this know that Dan is not producing this show right now. He's not drinking grain alcohol and gummies and putting the production on. He's on vacation, but he still can't stay away.
To answer Patrick's question, the schedule matrix will be released. It's going to be quantitative this year, so hopefully more useful than it has been in years past. To close the book on Cincinnati, at least at first pass, they have the most inbound schedule in terms of a huge proportion of their expected wins come in the first half. And then it gets really, really tough for them in the second half. They have just one hell of a home stretch here. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, KC, Cleveland, Tampa, New England, Buffalo, Baltimore. I mean, those are all either rivals, tough outs, or like bona fide playoff teams, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so something I've been doing at work has just been, kind of scheming social media stuff. I'm not good at the whole really, the engagement farming shit. Like, you're not going to see, tell me who you're,
who's your sleeper this year.
Fuck, marry, kill these 3 tight ends. Actually, that's a funny post. Like the real ones like that. But I would I'm going to try to make a little more use of the Deep Dive Pod account because I don't use it that much. And there's like 3,000 followers. So I've been kind of jotting down things. And when we talk about that market entry stuff, I think whenever we bring one up on a show, during these, I'm going to create a thread of those, and then later we can go back and just, you can go back and just be like, this didn't happen. There's going to be like 30. This didn't happen, so we didn't bet this. But I think we'll go back and be like, you know what? This happened, and the price is 3-1. We're going to take the Packers to win the NFC right now.
Yeah, or we said, hey, the time to buy the Packers is week 11, but Aaron Rodgers joined a cult and quit the NFL, so I don't think.
He is.
I think we're going to pass on that. He's Wiccan
now.
Yeah, we're going to pass on that one.
Got to pass.
I think that's a great call. Love that idea.
So I'm gonna do a few threads on there of some of the stuff we touch on during these preview episodes are a grind, and there's going to be 1 week where we do 4 of them because I'm taking some vacation time the next week, but I really do love them, and they help me a lot too.
Okay, so let's close with the fun thought, and you can tweet these out on the Deep Dive account, and we'll come back and circle at the end of the process. So far, what's a team that you are higher than you expected to be on? You're surprisingly, didn't think I was going to find anything to like about this team, but now here I am wondering if they're the bet on.
So I think most of the teams I'm a little higher on. I don't know if I let my own priors build into this, but like I'm high on the teams I thought I would be high on for the most part, I guess. There wasn't really one. Like I thought, truthfully, and this is boring, but I thought I would downgrade Kansas City more. I still just can't. Like, I think you can really get by where I think we've seen this in Green Bay, and we might see this in Kansas City where it's like, oh no, he lost his good receiver. It's like, oh shit, he's still really good. Like, it's still, if his feet aren't hurt, he can take off and do that bullshit run move or the fake run move. He can scheme me and you open. Like, I'm not worried about Kansas City having some huge drop off because they lost some pieces. And Indy is probably one too where I'm hesitant, but I've been forced to have them high. It's going to be an okay team. Like it's going to be a playoff team. It's another what was the joke? Like, hey, this is a great team. They win the division, they make the playoffs, they lose by 14 to the Bills.
Yeah, that's
that's the team. Although I did see that market today, maybe at Bovada, they had every team's like when is their last game essentially.
Like which week
Yeah,
or
like-
which
like-
stage,
well,
stage
like-
of elimination?
Stage of elimination. So like a shitty team was like, minus 800, missed the playoffs. And then a lot of that other ones, but like any team that was close to 500 or better had prices for miss the playoffs, lose the first, second. Yeah, like those were fun. And like Indy, I kind of want to build it. Indy makes the playoffs, Indy loses in the wild card round. They're not going to let me parlay that, but bet both of those because that's kind of where I see that team landing.
I think that's fair.
If you let me parlay, win the division and lose in the wild card round, I guess I could just roll it over.
Yeah. The problem is, what if they get the 1 seed in a weak AFC South?
Yeah, I think
They
your bet
wouldn't-
just loses.
Then
If they can't lose, they're just out.
Yeah. Interesting. What's the team that you thought you were going to be a little bit higher on that you've cooled since you started doing a little research and reading and thinking about them?
Probably the Saints.
Oh,
And
man,
I
we're
know you're
there.
oppo on that. It's a very light, cold front on them, but
They moved on from your nemesis.
I know, but that's where I'm sitting. It's like we have the uncertainty of that. What are we going to get? I have them long tail both ways. And I think in cases like this, the long tail to the under for season wins is a lot. It has a lot more distribution percentage than the over because there's uncertainty at the two most important spots, and it's not even close. You still have a high level uncertainty at the quarterback, and you really don't know what we're getting from a coach. So I think they can be good just because not only am I expecting Tampa to maybe take a slight step back, and I really expect Atlanta to be horrid. And Carolina, even with Baker, I don't think that's a good team. So they're in a weakish division. They're in a weaker division than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I think so too.
And they're getting they should get their receiving core healthy. They have some good pieces on offense. So they could be good if things work out. Like they're a bet the alt over, bet the alt under team for me.
Okay.
So I guess I'm skeptical on them, and I could see them having a disaster season.
Their schedule sets up super favorably.
Yeah.
To capture equity early in division.
I know, and that's where I landed on some of that too. And I went back and looked too. It's like you go back and look at who has the easiest schedules for the year. Sometimes those teams just suck anyways.
Yeah, that's
you still have to go beat shitty teams. And if you don't have when they're gelling, when the locker room gels, what am I trying to say? Like some sort of
lack of chemistry or
the chemistry
synergy. You think it's
synergy? If everybody doesn't get the train moving in the same direction right away, the schedule lining up for them favorably. I wish it lined up for them favorably later. I'm actually opposite on you that 100%. I wish they had an easier second half of the schedule because at that point they know what the fuck they are. They know where, they know, all right, this is our identity as a team. We've had longer time to get the offense and go, and they can make a run at the playoffs because it is still a weak NFC, especially the bottom end of the teams that are going to make the playoffs. So I worry that if they don't get their shit in the get right away, and they will squander how the schedule hashes out for them, and then they're going to be looking at a 6-win season. And that
could be.
That stinks because they have pieces.
Yeah.
So I'm probably like I thought I would like them, and I'm probably Saints agnostic because it's too high of uncertainty for me to put money into that. I'll
Okay.
bet them week to week if I start to see something, but or against if I see the opposite. But Saints probably won't be in my futures book.
Yeah, it's so we can put a pin in this till we get to the AFC South, but the Bucks are set up to underwhelm out of the gate. Like they are really, 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 really like they're asking them to stub their toe. Start 0-4.
That would be funny.
At which point somebody else in the NFC South is going to be presumed to be the team. And I can't talk myself out of that being the Saints just because of the way their schedule starts. You think it's going to be Carolina?
It's going to be so funny if we do the. Remember what was Carolina to start the season last year? Like
3-0.
3-0, and I feel like
Carolina and Denver started 3-0 and then missed the playoffs, I believe.
I feel like somebody made a case for like Darnold to win awards at that point. Like Darnold
for sure.
And
For
it was
sure.
it was a bad take. So the half says I thought I would be higher on the Giants. I kind of did too. I really don't like what they've done from a roster construction standpoint. Patrick says he wants to like the Niners. We'll see if the steam of Jimmy G being traded happens. Like thought exercise to close the program with. Did you see enough of Trey Lance to give the Niners an automatic upgrade if they move on? I don't think we saw him play enough to really suss that out.
Oh, I can answer that more definitively.
But I think if I see him play enough in the preseason and I see some practice footage,
yeah,
maybe I can say like he looks like he's got poise. Poise is more important than anything. Like that, I could not say that enough when we were sitting there in Burrow's rookie season. Like before he was injured, like the guy just looked like he was comfortable out there. You see some of these rookies, you see guys who have been in the years for the league who don't look comfortable out there sometimes. Like Burrow from day one looked like he belonged. Like if you just dropped me out of a coma, I would have, and I've been like, I don't know. Has he been in the league for 4 or 5 years? Like there are guys that have that. And if you start to see that with Trey Lance right away, if he just looks comfortable, like they're going to get an upgrade over Jimmy G because he fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's 10% for me. I'm at 60%. Trey Lance gives you an average first-year starter season. That he looks like a rookie and has ups and downs and plays like Trevor Lawrence played last year.
Yeah, I think there's going to be bumps in the road.
That's 60% for me, is that he is just a very average first-year season. 30% for me that he is completely lost and should not be starting, but they have to go through the growing pains anyway because what they have invested. And then 10% for me that he steps in and does the Pat Mahomes in year 2 kind of a deal.
I'm probably 10. I guess 10. I was going to say I'm probably a little lower, but 10's fair.
Because like what you saw from Mahomes in the preseason and limited usage the year that they started Alex Smith all year was enough to be higher than 10% that Mahomes was going to be capable. And now he exceeded expectations by a mile, but you didn't see that from Trey Lance last year.
No. And that's the thing too. What do we have? We have a few plays on film. Like, we talked about him before when we did the 49ers preview. We said, are they going to use him in conjunction with Jimmy? Are we going to see him a bunch? That's how he gets time in the field. That's how we evaluate him. And then maybe he takes over. But man, they were using him like 1 or 2 times a game, sometimes not at all. And then before that, what do we have? FCS footage. He's playing like, how are we supposed to take that? But like, well, he beat the shit out of James Madison. Like, is that good enough to win the NFC West against the Super Bowl champs? Like, I need to see a lot more. So very incomplete grade on that one. And I'm going to agree with your 10% that he has high upside. But the other 2 percentages, I'm probably like 45-45. Like I have a much higher percentage of him like just, and that 45%, let's just call that the shit the bed percentage. I don't think that's he shit the bed and he's, David Carr and he's just not going to work. And that wasn't his fault, man. That guy needed a line, but Akili Smith, Cade McNown, just Jamarcus Russell, a guy who's just not going to get it, not going to play in this league. Like,
yeah,
I don't think that's what that 45% is. The 45% is like, he was bad because he's so experienced, but we saw a few things that are going to convince the media, the fans, and especially and most importantly, the coaching staff that this is the future. And it was just a rough year.
Okay.
And like, I think that's as high of a percentage chance as happening as he gives us a baseline season.
Okay. I think, for me, like the 60% that I'm kind of looking at the body of his probability is that his season feels like Lawrence Wilson Fields from last year.
It's a better team. There's a lot more talent on this 49ers team as far as the skill position players.
Sure, so they don't win 3-4 games, but they they're not competitive for.
So yeah, it helps like the win total for the team, but he might still have just as bad of a blooper reel or whatever you want to call it. Like oh shit, that was a bad play. That was a bad decision. That was the wrong call. That was the wrong audible. He ran right into a sack. He threw right to a linebacker. It's going to be a lot of that no matter what. Like even if he hits that 10% where he redlines and surprises us all, he still has a dozen plays like that where it's like, shit, he's a rookie still. Like there's no avoiding that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm excited to see it at least. Like, give me Trey Lance starting 16 games, 17 maybe even. Give me Justin Fields with some pieces around him, which I guess we're not getting this year. I want to see some of these young quarterbacks that we really didn't give me Trevor Lawrence with a coach who's not spending his whole time booting the special teams in the face or whatever. And I'd like to see some of these guys at least, show me what they got, and then we can be done with them or get excited about the future.
Okay. That's fair. Well, that's fair.
I'm more excited about last year's draft class for quarterbacks than this year's. As far as right now where we're at this season, I'm excited for sophomores.
Yeah, the quarterback I'm most interested in seeing this year.
It's a lot like my senior year.
I like the. I'd like to see what happens with the Washington cornerback situation and Sam Howell out of the rooks. Not excited for anybody else.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. All right. Good job. Let's call it a pod. You got the exit music cued.
See you guys. If you're in the YouTube, hit the thumbs up on the way out. And we'll see you Monday for the
NFC North.
Part 1.
NFC North Part 1.
North. Lions and Bears.
Let's talk some Bears. Yeah.
You know what? And we're going to start with a little golf.
Yeah.
Because it's the Open Championship. So Lions and Tiger and Bears.
Oh, look at you.
Rough.
I like that.